Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our series, We Are the World Games. My name is Philip Döring, and I am very happy to present our guest today. She is not just great, since January 2021, she is officially the greatest of all time. I'm very happy that Nicole has taken the time to be with us. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Philip.
Nicole, congratulations
Nice to be
again.
here.
Nice to have you here, and congratulations again. You won this
Thank you.
vote, the World Games Greatest Athlete of All Times, by a big margin. And you have very many fans back home in Malaysia and as well fans all around the world. And please tell us what happened after you've been voted the greatest athlete of all times, and what were the most surprising people or organizations that congratulated you?
Well, to be honest, like the being nominated for as the greatest athlete of all time for by the World Games was just a great honor. But the moment like the votings were open and it was announced that the public can vote for their greatest athlete of all time, then my friends, my family, everyone was starting to WhatsApp at each other, reminding each other to keep voting because this is truly a special honor. So let's get her there. And before you know it, it became like kind of like a viral thing in Malaysia, and at the same time, the squash community from the World Squash Federation, the Professional Squash Association, everybody came in, even our local association, and that whole month or even 5 weeks, they really voted every day. It was really astounding to see support back in Malaysia. They were cheering me on from afar, and the moment I got that award finally given at the end of the day, the whole nation was going crazy and happy for me, and I even had the Prime Minister and the King of Malaysia congratulating me as well, which was truly special. So thanks so much for having this award being presented and to be recognized in that form.
And that's pretty amazing. Here in Germany, squash is, well, not exactly a small sport, but it's also not a big sport. And when I was a kid, I think I didn't know anyone who played squash, and it was really an outsider, a really little small thing. And how is that in Malaysia? Is it like a national sport?
Right now, it is one of the core sports in Malaysia because it's like a medal prospect sport that now athletes can actually have medals in the multi-sports games like the World Games and Commonwealth Games, Asian Games. So but before when I started playing, it was just me, my sisters, and two older sisters, and I playing for the state team, the only girls that were playing for my home state in Penang, in a public squash center. So it was a very small sport, and since then up to now, the sport has grown so much. The funding from the sports government from Malaysia has just really pumped in a lot of funds for the growth of squash in Malaysia, and now we have about 800 juniors all around the country playing squash, and that's being like the national level. So we have so much following coming through, which is quite very exciting to see that squash is growing bigger and better.
Well, I think this development of squash in Malaysia probably has something to do with you and your career. And but tell me, how old were you when you held a squash racket in your hands for the first time?
I was 5 years old when I first held the homemade squash racket that was cut into half because I was too small to hold a normal squash racket. So my dad had to find a way to get it shorter so that I could play with my sisters. And so I was very, very happy to join them, train with them, and I started playing tournaments locally, internationally, and I saw myself getting better. So that really gave me that opportunity to push myself and see how far I could go. And it was very exciting when I started winning and started beating my sisters at the same time.
So your two older sisters also played squash, so it seems to be like a family thing. And why squash and why not some other sport?
Squash was actually the first sport we were introduced. My dad's friend actually built the first public squash center in my hometown in Penang. And obviously he introduced my sisters to join lessons, and I joined them afterwards. So that was the first sport I played, and then we actually got really good as a team, as the women's team for the state, and we just thought that why not pursue further in our squash, even though we played a lot of other sports in school, but squash really took a strong hold in our family, and my parents were very supportive of that.
And what was the moment when you decided to become a professional squash player?
I won my second world junior title at 17 years old, and that moment on, it was after my high school, and I decided, this is my time to play the pro tour. So I took that chance and went for it, and because when I won the world title, I thought, if I could win the world junior title, why not dream big and go for that professional senior title. So that was my aim and that was my dream. So I pursued that, and my parents were very supportive with my decision to actually move to Amsterdam to get coached by my coach Liz Irving, who worked with me for most of my whole squash career, to get me to reach all my achievements that I achieved in squash. And at 18 years old, I moved to Amsterdam to make that shift from becoming a junior squash player to be a top professional athlete, working with her. And my parents gave their blessings for me to leave home and to train in a foreign country on my own, which was very tough to do, but they knew that I was able to take on whatever I wanted if I put my mind to it, and they let me go with their blessings.
Well, it didn't take you too long to reach the top of the adult tour as well. So 4 years later, in 2005, I think, you won your first world championship. And I read in an interview that you said this might have been the most important win of your career. Why is that so?
When you are a kid and you aspire to be a world champion and to be world number one, and when it all happens all at once at that very moment, you really feel like you finally achieved your dream and your goal. And that was how I felt when I won my first world title. It's like all my dreams came true, and I was like in cloud nine at the time, and you just don't know how to express that feeling of winning that first world title. So it was very special because that was a significant moment that made me become who I am after the next stage of being at the top of my game. And because if I didn't reach that first world title, I wouldn't be able to have that belief in myself that I could do more. So yeah.
This first world championship was followed by 7 more, and you were number 1 in the world for 9 consecutive years, and you practically dominated this sport for a long time. And you also took part in 4 editions of the World Games and won 3 of them. How do you remember the World Games, also in contrast to the World Championships?
The World Games is always a great event for me because it was all different sports and you're representing your country. It's a place where you get a medal. It's not just for you, but actually for your nation. So you're putting into the medal tally. So a lot of things go into it, which is a different approach to your own individual world championships or your individual tournament. So it was fun to be in such a great environment. Every World Games was special because there were different athletes around. We are mingling with different sports, and it's great to get to know different people, not just the squash community, but on a bigger scale. And so I really enjoyed my World Games experiences, all for them.
You're also active in a campaign to make squash an Olympic sport. Well, we'll get to that later. First, I would like to
Yeah.
watch a little clip from the World Games 2013 in Cali of the final, your final against Natalie Grinham. So let's have a look at that.
Okay.
In the squash final, each game to 11.
Okay, so we see the final from the World Games 2013 in Cali, in Colombia. And you played Natalie Grinham. It was the second final, second World Games final against her. It was the same 4 years ago and 8 years ago. In your first World Games appearance, you played her sister. And can you say something about this long rivalry with Natalie Grinham?
Well, being at world number one in my first few years, a lot of tournaments I had to compete with actually both Grinham sisters, Natalie Grinham and Rachel Grinham, because Natalie was world number two with me for a long time. And before that, Rachel Grinham was actually in the top three in the world and also former world number one and world champion. So these two girls were always on my track trying to get to finals of tournaments, trying to win tournaments, and I had to, and they were very tough competitors. They never let an inch go. They were very fast, very similar games as well. Natalie and me, we have a very similar game in terms of like we move fast, but at the same time we retrieve a lot of balls, so the rallies keep going and going and going. So very exciting matches I've had with her and a lot of tough battles.
How is it to compete against the same people a lot, and at the same time, I guess you have a common interest to make squash bigger and stuff like that. Can you say something about that?
Well, actually, the players, we always see each other and at the same tournaments, and we pretty much are friendly amongst each other because it's such a small community. But when you're on the squash court, it's a different story where we are both neck and neck against each other, wanting to win that match. So it's interesting. But even with Rachel and Natalie, they were in Holland, the Netherlands, when I was living in Amsterdam, and there are some moments that we even had training sessions together at times, which is how it was in squash. Well, and still is in squash, where everyone kind of trains with each other sometimes, but then when it comes to the real deal in competitions, we are at each other's throats.
So here we see the final moments of this match, shortly before you win the gold medal. And can you say something? What's the difference between this match and maybe your first World Games? Because in 2005 you were hunting the others, and in 2013 all the others knew, okay, if I want to win this gold medal, I have to beat NICOL DAVID. What difference does that make for you?
Well, a lot of difference because I in 2005 I just had my debut in the World Games and also be going into the top of the rankings. And but in 2013 I've been at the top for almost like maybe 7 years, and it's great to have that confidence going into matches, knowing that you have to be on your game, and by the same time you don't want anyone to come in your way. So in this match, in the finals, I really stand my grounds, and I enforced my game. I made sure I took it on against Natalie, and I played really well in this final. So as you can see.
How well do you remember this final? I mean, it's 8 years since it happened now. How well do you remember it?
Well, I remembered it as a really great environment in Cali, being in Colombia. The people were all really friendly and fun, and they were all alive and cheering on for every point, and they loved their squash. So the atmosphere was great. Very tough finals. So I was very focused. I remembered this match. I was pretty focused to be ready for a strong battle, and it was hot as well. So I was getting ready for a very hard match, and I managed to get through 3-love.
So it sounds like the atmosphere and many fans, and the match being a final, it doesn't put pressure on you in a negative sense, but it helps you to focus and to be at your very best. Is it right?
Yeah, always. No matter where I am, if there's a crowd, it gets me going. Whether the crowd is against me or with me, I always use it to my advantage.
So here we see, we saw the final moment, and yeah, that was your third gold medal. After 20 years, you finally ended your career in 2019, just before the pandemic. The pandemic started, by the way.
Yes.
But you didn't really retire from squash. You're still very active, and you've been active before. And you played a big part in the campaign for squash becoming an Olympic sport. And of course, we as the World Games, we would be very sad to see squash go and to the Olympics. But of course, I understand why it would be great to become Olympic. So my question is, why is it so difficult? Because squash has many fans around the world. It's a fast sport. What's the problem?
To be honest, I don't really know. But I've been in all the campaigns previously for the squash campaign, but really I do know it's the fact that the International Olympic Committee have different priorities every time they want to select a sport. So that actually changes things every time we campaign. And even though we have a great sport and our campaign is very solid, the Olympic Committee will change at the very last moment what they truly want. And from that moment on, I think squash really has to change the shift of what they have to do now in terms of just growing their sport, doing what they do best, which is to portray a great sport, great event all around the world through the media, through every source possible. And hopefully one day the Olympics will take us on board. But at the moment, yeah, I think squash is not full priority. They have to actually move away from trying to fit in that box that the Olympic Committee has put together, which is not really non-existent at the moment.
But this is not the only campaign you were part of. You did many other campaigns, and you produced a series of videos, motivational videos, and I'd like to have a look at one of these with you.
There is always a beginning to a dream. It starts with an opportunity that opens your mind to imagine the possibilities. To believe in yourself to reach your full potential. And to build confidence to fight for your passion. power to me.
So when I announced my retirement in 2019 in February, I was still going to be playing on the tour for another 5 months. And I wanted to just share with everybody that the whole time I was on tour, the 20 years I was on tour, what squash gave me. And I came out with 3 strong values, and it was power, determination, and heart. And those three messages came through with that campaign, and that to show people that this is what truly represented me in my squash career, and I wanted to share that with my fans, the people who supported me, everybody that has seen me grow through my squash career, and I wanted to just give that back through these videos. So so the first power video that you saw was how when what from a little kid coming to win all the achievements that I had, winning all these titles, has created that power within me. But also it will bring, but it's not the power you get, is what is within you. So it's to remind people that the power is in all of us. Like, we have to bring it out within ourselves to just bring that power within us to take on whatever we want.
You also founded the NICOL DAVID Foundation to empower girls by sports. Why is this important to you to empower kids and children, especially girls?
Well, my foundation is going to be called the NICOL DAVID Organization, and it's in the final stages of registration. So it's in the midst of putting together. But I'm very excited that I'm in Malaysia, having to do these final stages to make it all happen. And the aim is to actually empower both girls and boys through the values of sport. And through that, we can actually create this inclusivity from a young age, like learning how boys and girls can work together as in fair play with sport, creating those values that they build from playing sport, and also healthy living and a good lifestyle. And apart from that, we want to also bring in an English language as well as an extra curricula to help the proficiency of English in Malaysia, because the children in Malaysia, we want them to hopefully be more proficient in speaking English, and that will help them in their future, whether it's in their to further their education or in their work in some ways. So yeah, it's very important for me to see the children in our next generation, if I can offer that to them with my experience, how I can translate that in another form, that they can actually take on these tools that we can offer to be better people, or be more of like a wholesome person when they grow up.
That sounds great, and I just had to think. You said it's for both girls and boys, and when I think back, when I was a kid, like the boys played football and the girls did maybe ballet, or if they did a sport, they did something like swimming. It has changed a little bit, but really it didn't change completely. So I think it's a very good idea to promote this idea that all sports should be for boys as well as girls.
Yeah, I think it's to break the stigma as well, that girls can only play this kind of sport or this activity, and boys can only play these sports. Why not do it together, and also not let them feel like out of place when they are competing with a boy, a girl competing with a boy. They are all on equal grounds. No one is better than anyone. When you are at 8-9 years old, they are all building just the same way, like everyone else when they are at that age. So it's great to have them understand respect and treating one another with good intentions and good and being respectful of one another.
Actually, these were very nice final words, and I'm pretty sure, although you have retired from the court, you haven't retired from squash, and I'm pretty sure you won't be bored in the next years to come. So thank you, Nicole, for the interview, and all the best for your foundation and everything else. And I hope we will maybe see you at the World Games in Birmingham, Alabama in 2022 as a special guest. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, and it's been great. I really appreciate the honor from the World Games, and this has been truly a special recognition for me. So thank you so much, and also thank you for having me on this interview.
Thank you for the interview. This was NICOL DAVID, and we will be back with a new interview very soon. Bye-bye.